Hi,
Hi, can you hear
can you
me?
hear me? Yes, I can hear you. And you?
That's yes, yes. Connection is good, I think.
Yeah, hopefully.
Okay, so hello everyone. Welcome to the fifth session of Maudi Instagram Talks, which is a series of live talks with different artists, art spaces, and other cultural workers all around the world, with whom we discuss our current situation, the experiences which we have gained with this pandemic, and basically talk and share our stories. Today, it's my pleasure to have Mehregan Meysami, if that's the right way to pronounce your
Yes.
name. She's an artist and a group member of Padman Project, which is an independent artist-run platform based in Tehran. Thanks, Mehregan, for joining us.
Thank you for having me and us. It's my pleasure to join your talk and very happy to talk about Padman and our activity and our history and our objectives.
Great. So, could you say maybe a few words about the Padman? What is it about? What is your involvement in it, and how does this platform function?
Yes, Padman is an independent artist-run platform, primarily based in Tehran, and we are working like we are having the concept of like artists as nomads. So we don't have a fixed location or our own like place for exhibiting, for holding venues or yeah, so we are kind of working as nomads and we collaborate with other artists, with other platforms and like other locations. Yeah, we are like very flexible in that sense and we kind of like we find that very like good opportunity to also connect to places like us. So yeah.
That's great. So is it like a fixed amount of people, or do people come, join, and go away, and it's like does it change over time?
You mean about the like
The
crew
group,
in
yeah, the crew.
Padman? Yes,
Yeah.
we have this kind of like attitude or policy of having members, kind of. So there are people who are like collaborating or part of Padman, but since we are interested in not having like a hierarchical or like fixed positions, it's very open. So sometimes I work as a I don't know, just artist. Sometimes I work as organizer, coordinator, etc. So no, we are not interested in titles, and that's why on our website we don't have like a on different projects you see names have different kind of responsibility, and that's what we are interested in to kind of break in the hierarchies that are you see in art scene in galleries and museums, like everyone having
Yeah.
a title, and also yeah. Um,
So it shifts according to the necessity of the situation, I guess.
exactly.
Okay, so I want to ask about your experience as a group, as a platform during this pandemic. Have you had some activities since the start of it? And basically, how did you cope with the situation?
Yeah, I would say yes, we still had our own activity, and I would say there was not so much like disruption or interruption in what we were doing or in the project that we had defined and we were planning to develop. We had a couple of like online events, like online workshops. And also we had like online screenings and we had in real life events that happened during this pandemic because in Iran it was never like a real lockdown and but we really followed the like physical distancing and etc. So I would say pandemic was not very like directly affecting our activities. Yes, of course it does. There were some venues that we were gonna participate, like in the supermarkets independent art fair in Stockholm, Sweden. That was gonna happen in 2020, but because of pandemic, it got
Mhm.
cancelled. I mean, and then we were not able to
Yeah.
participate in the sense that we were gonna do it, but we held discussion online also with the platform, and we had some events going on still online. So I would say we were flexible in terms of like showing, in terms of like finding our way to still do
Okay.
what we were doing.
Yeah, I guess because you don't have like a fixed space, it's not related to some actual location. It's can be
Yeah,
more flexible to work with.
yeah,
And
exactly.
I wanted to ask about this kind of the beginning of pandemics. I think it's interesting how different people had different expectations. With some people, it came as a slow, in more like a slow motion. With some, it was like a big kind of moment of crisis. And yes, just to say maybe a few words about that. Were you in Tehran when this happened?
No, no, I'm based in Stockholm myself, and
Okay, so
since
you live in
beginning,
Stockholm.
yes.
Okay.
So no, I was not. I was in Iran right before pandemic started in Iran and the rest of the world. But no, like yeah, as I said, kind of we our goal was to not to
Mhm.
like be dependent on circumstances. I mean, we are based in Iran, which is like a lot of unexpected things every day happen. So we kind of
Yes.
are from that region. So we're kind of like ready for anything that you cannot predict in a sense.
Mhm.
And then I would say in the beginning of the pandemic, it was a good time for also maybe reflecting on the unfinished projects, on categorized projects, future open calls. So it was more time dedicated to yeah, reviewing what we've been doing, and also kind of like writing a lot more and doing more research on the things that we hardly ever had time to do before pandemic. So and we were like about to develop some events that were taking time because we were like consulting with other platforms, and everything takes time. They needed to think. We had applied for some sort of like yeah, funding from different places, and all this like paperwork was going on. So kind of like yeah.
Okay. So to a certain advantage, then I would this kind of pause. Yeah, you could frame it in that way, I guess. And could you also talk a bit about the contemporary art scene in Tehran? Because I think our audience will be very interested to hear about that, because it's not something that we hear a lot about, and unfortunately, there wasn't like a lot of exchange going on between our states, let's say, and our um, yeah. Platform.
Yeah, I mean, the art scene, contemporary art scene in Iran, I think it's very I would say like maybe chaotic. There is a lot going on in different direction, and there is not really like a one movement. I mean, if you call it movement, or like a one like line to follow. There are so many things, and the galleries are quite different. What they're interested in, what they define themselves as contemporary art, and things are very hierarchical in the like so-called commercial galleries, etc. And so there, and that was kind of one reason we decided to. We were like initiating this idea to open our artist-run space. It's Padman is not the only one, but there are
Mhm.
not. There are very few, or they are working kind of underground, and then you kind of like when you are looking at through internet or like in the town through art scene catalogs, you don't see them. So
Mhm.
it's like it has this, you have to really dig and
Yeah.
like join the underground like art life that's going on. And so and there is still so much focus in painting in Iran art scene
Mhm.
or galleries, and that
Yes.
also was another reason we are mostly working with like installation, video, mostly video performance, and things that are not like mediums that are not conventional in that sense, because we felt like there is a need for this. And because personally I have this experience that I was going to like talk to curators and galleries about like exhibiting work, and they were like, oh no, but we need to, this is like too yeah, like too unconventional, or we are working with something that's like object oriented. So then it's yeah, that was also one reason that we found that we should like run this space that we can kind of show artworks that are like this. But yeah, unfortunately, because of so many like socio-political atmosphere that is going on in Iran, the exchange between Iranian artists and the rest of the world is very limited, very sadly. And that, I mean, it could be completely different if there would be more exchange and people could collaborate. And this pandemic also kind of, maybe if it had one advantage, was that now that the world is more opened up to online like collaboration, and it's like kind of defined or accepted, it opened up more for Iranian artists to kind of, now that you don't need to travel, you need to be in a physical like space to be able to exchange with other artists. So that kind of brought also possibilities. Like we had online workshop that I don't know if we would be able to do it if it was not in the pandemic, and now this like tolerance of online. Yeah, so it is kind of like a very extended art scene in Iran.
Okay. So this idea, as you mentioned, is kind of more conventional outlook of the art and what is art. Is it related somehow to the education as well, or what kind of education would you get in Iran as an artist, let's say?
Yeah, I mean, I would say yes, like maybe everywhere else. If you go to art school, then yeah, you kind of know some, like you have networking, and yeah, that kind of matters in your resume when you're participating to show, like curators invite you, blah, blah, blah. Same, I think, as is everywhere. But no, not necessarily. There are a lot of artists, a lot of good artists that are working and they don't have education in art, but then they kind of educate themselves through like other art institution, if you call it, or there are so many in Iran, or galleries that also they conduct art classes. So people join them, and like for instance, like a lot of classes in critical theory, in art history. So people educate themselves, and
So there's this kind of informal education that also takes place. Okay.
yes.
That's very important, I think, because also we have kind of problem of the, maybe not lack of education, but the attitudes towards this kind of the world that we live now. It's kind of more backward looking.
That's very true.
Yeah. So next question is this idea, the connection between the art and the pandemic, or art and everyday life. Like, have you developed any projects specifically around that theme?
I mean, no, not directly, but we had a online workshop that I was talking about a bit earlier. And that was kind of about, I mean, the topic of the workshop was flight workshops. And it was like about, yeah, like home, now that we are in like spending most of our time in a home, like how is our experience, and kind of like intervening that to like a concept of flying, sort of. So which I think maybe it's that the only like one that is particularly like directed to pandemic. And it was yeah, it was done by John Grunyanov. And yeah, so like there were 4 workshops, like that's the participants were sharing the stories of home, Then second one, sharing stories of community, like assigning visual properties to their stories and create drawings. And then number three, sharing a story about a flight. And then at the end, they were gathering stories, drawing and gestures. So it was like kind of like storytelling around all these experiences of like, yeah, being all the time at home, but like being able to shift that towards like concept of flight. Yeah.
Okay. And talking about this kind of tools and kind of online work, maybe if you can say about digital tools, like have you used any specific digital tools? Have you had like more positive or negative experiences while kind of adapting to this situation?
Yeah, I would say this like online or Zoom meetings that now you see everywhere, and it's maybe yeah the main tool for communication in our time. That and also yeah, like just yeah, like our website and our Instagram, and we
But
had
it's something
some
that you would do anyways, right? It's not that you kind
yes.
of completely shifted your working methods because of this, right?
Yes, yeah, it was something that we were already using because like you,
Maybe
you
just in more concentrated form, right? Like something that is there, but somehow it becomes more kind of in your face. And also, there's a question of this possibility or impossibility of the replacement, let's say, of physical participation by the online presence. Like, well, what do you think about that?
I think it's personally, I think it very depends on the concept, on the subject, and on the like a lot of parameters that I think it can still be very well functioning if it's online, but it depends like how the audience can be like interacts with
Mhm.
it, or like I think it can still be very interesting, and I think we can turn that into like a artistic tool to make it like work in a way we kind of want.
Mhm.
So that's my personal approach in the pandemic time now. I mean, that we are kind of forced to do it. It's why not making it our own artistic choice at the end. So, and I think I see it as a way to, I mean, it's something that is outside of our comfort zone. So, of course, it's challenging, but then it can be like experimentation, and it can like open up a new like door to more like creativity, or not. It all, I
Yeah.
think, depends on the mindset and the approach, of course. But as I mentioned earlier, in Iran, it has never been like a really official lockdown in a sense that
Yeah.
where in the rest of the world, I mean, Sweden also never.
Mhm.
Um, but um, but now also the galleries has opened up and you can go in real person, and there were some events that they were already like happening in real person in March, for instance, and in 2020. So I would say it was not really like a big sacrifice for us
Yeah.
and for our activities.
Because I guess at some point it was quite strict here, and you could sense that there was this desire to go back into like this kind of physical contact, that just hang around people, because yeah, like you can spend some time online, you can have the Zoom meeting, but there's this kind of human need to get
Yes.
back. Yeah.
Yeah, that's completely understandable.
And also, yeah, in relation to this, like there's this idea that it brings some advantages, as we were talking before, like this kind of wider accessibility, and there may be less elitism and maybe less need of travel, and maybe also kind of some new possibilities opening up, right? So you can't say that it's either good or bad, right? It's like
Yeah.
every crisis somehow uh, brings new possibilities, new ways of dealing and understanding the world.
Right.
And I want to ask about the role of government. I don't know, I mean, maybe it's a bit different in your case. Like, have you received any help from the government, or is there any like connection that you have with this like official representatives, or what was your relation to it
No,
in
we
general?
don't have any connection or nor any support from the government. I think neither we want.
Mhm.
So, yeah, like because yeah, in Iran it works also differently. I'm not sure about Georgia, but I know that in Europe, in Sweden, there are like some government funding for artists, but that's not the case in Iran. And there is not such a thing like governmental grants or funds or support. And if there is, you have to go through so many like
Mm.
filters and layers that is something that we don't want.
Okay.
And so no, we are completely independent from any governmental like
So is there any
organizations.
interaction at all? Like, are you on the good terms, let's say, or you just never kind of mingled?
I mean, we never I mean, we are following the rules in
Mhm.
terms of what is okay and what is not okay to do, like
Mhm.
in art world. But
Mm.
that's most of our contribution.
Yeah.
And we just know, like, we just like try not to have a conflict,
Yes.
but also in return, we don't want to be dependent on them or be supported from them.
Mhm.
Yes.
Okay. And you mentioned before this kind of collaborating with different spaces. So does it happen within the Iran, and also if it happens within the region? That would be interesting.
Yes, it's both happened in Iran and internationally. There were some venues that we collaborated. We held shows and video events there in Tehran, in Isfahan, and in Gorgan. And then on the international level, we collaborated and we had exchange with Brazilian artists
Hmm.
and curators and Greece, and also we in Edinburgh we held a group show at the University of Art in Edinburgh, and um, like with this artist that I mentioned, we had the collaboration Jon Grunjanovs, which is like
Hmm.
who is also an independent artist. So yeah, we have both in region and international collaboration, and we are very much interested in both. And also
Hmm.
we are, I mean, most of the art scene is like based in Tehran, and kind of we were interested to extend that a bit to also like have shows or create events in other cities. So that's also one of our objectives that we are working for.
As you mentioned before, like somehow this pandemic led you to expand your kind of circle of connections, right, and participation.
Yes, in a way, yeah. But yeah.
And I guess as the last question, I want to ask about the kind of bigger changes in the art world from your perspective after this pandemic and your future plans.
Yeah, I think as you mentioned, everyone's so interested now to kind of so eager to go to events in real life, and we are of course also gonna have more events like that, and we're planning for it. And we are defining like new projects that are not only like in the category of like have a show or like
Mhm.
screening, etc. We are gonna have like I mean, if you call it field trip or picnic events, that for instance we are going to artist studio or lab or garden, and then people can join, can writes motivational letter and we select, and it's completely free, and then we provide like small picnic snacks
Mm.
and things like that. That is also not very official. It's like casual, like, but you still like talk around art, and it's like fun, and it's like, so things like that. We are planning to have more of this in near future. Yeah, and just yeah, we are, like, as I mentioned, very much interested in collaborating with other artists that are working similarly in different part of the world, and through pandemic we could kind of like reach out to more artists out
Yes.
there. So we would like to develop that network further and work together with more people.
That's great. Yeah, I've been talking with Ford as well about this kind of possibility of our space, our kind of platforms also, and doing something or having some kind of project together.
Yeah, definitely
Very
should.
interesting. Okay, thanks a lot for being with us today, and thanks
Thank you so
again.
much for
Let's
having
talk
me.
soon, sometime, sometime later. Bye.
Bye.